when I was about, I think I was 8 or 9 years old. No, I was probably 7. My dad used to go backpacking with his buddies all the time, and they would go up into the Sierras, and they'd go 3 or 4 days. And I said, Dad, when can I go? I want to go backpacking. And he looks at me as a little kid and he goes, I don't know, maybe, how about when you're 11? So I just said, okay, 11, I'm gonna go backpacking. And then he had to kind of stick to it because I was pretty persistent. I pretty much wanted to do anything my dad was doing. So when I turned 11, my first year, we went on a 4-day backpacking trip. Got a backpack and everything that we had with us. Everything you needed for 4 days, we carried with us. We didn't have a tent. We had a little piece of plastic we put over us in case it rained at night. We usually just sweat on us because it didn't work very well. My dad had an old army tent or army backpack that he put on. It was just real small. We carried food with us. We didn't even carry a stove. We didn't even carry a grill or nothing. We carried a little pot, and then everything that we cooked over like an open fire. And usually back in that day, that was in the early 70s, you could go to any campsite and there'd be a grill there. And it was really cool because you just grab the grill. It was usually hidden in a bush somewhere. You grab that grill, take it out, and you would cook on that grill over the open fire. We'd cook our trout that we caught. We cook our food. We used to not have like food like freeze dried food. Our food was like, it was like Jiffy something cornbread. We had cup of noodles wasn't even around then. So we just pretty much had to carry whatever we had with us backpacking. It was pretty primitive, but it was pretty fun, And then when my brother was 2 years younger than me, so that's Todd. You've seen him in other videos that I've done. The two of us still do a bunch of that together. We don't go backpacking anymore, but we go a lot to the Sierras, and we spend a lot of time camping and disperse camping and fishing and hiking, and it's just Dad got us hooked on that, and that's just what we like to do. So, but I remember my dad had some friends that went backpacking with us, and they'd go with us, and then I think it was about the 3rd or 4th year, I'm like, Dad, by the time I'm 3 days into this, I'm just really getting to, really enjoy this backpacking thing. And then we're leaving. I go, the first 3 days are hard, man. It's a lot of work. You're sweating, you're tired. And he goes, all right, let's try a longer trip then. So we tried a 7-day trip from that time for that next year. And then that 7-day trip became our standard. It was 7, 8, or 9-day trip. We would go every year for a full week. And I was young. I was probably 14 by the time this was happening. And then all the way through until I got married, started having kids. My wife's like, no, you're not going out. You're not leaving our family. I had a job that gave me a lot of vacation. So I just started doing it, and we had arguments about it. And now, looking back on it, she thinks it was the greatest thing that ever happened to us because I needed that week. I needed that week of just being out there and being in the woods and fishing and hanging out with my dad and my brother and then other friends that would go. And sometimes we'd take other kids with us. And then I had 3 boys, and my oldest, when I always told him, when he turns 11, you're going to go backpacking with Dad and Grandpa. So the first year, when he turned 11, we went camping or backpacking, and we went for 9 days or 8 days, I think it was. And he loved it. He thought it was the greatest thing in the world. We got to spend time with Grandpa, got to spend time with Dad. We got to go fishing. When you're 11, you kind of still like your dad, So, so it was really a good experience. And then that year, 2 years we went and did that with my oldest son. And then the 3rd year would have been the time for my middle son to go backpacking with Grandpa. But unfortunately, he got cancer and he ended up passing away between those years. So my middle son really missed out. He never got a chance to go backpacking with Grandpa. I mean, we talked about it coming up on his 11th birthday, that he was going to be able to go with us. And, you know, really he was like 11 and a half by the time we actually went. But I continued doing it. I continued taking my boys. And then my third boy, we took him when he turned 11. And yeah, my dogs are playing. Hey, Aspen, come here. Stop. My dogs are going nuts here. I don't know if you can see them, but they like to play in the evening. It's their evening. Get them, what I call them, the zoomies. They get the zoomies in the evening. They want to run around. They sleep all day, and then about now they want to come out with Dad in the backyard and hang out. So anyways, but I continued doing that until my youngest was 18, and then just life got in the way and we stopped doing it. We still camped, but we didn't really go backpacking anymore. I kind of ended the backpacking, but during that time we would do some trips, and my dad, everybody had like a nickname when they were hiking, and my dad was always trail master, because he would find a loop trail that would last 9 days. I mean, 8 or 9 days, that we would start in one spot. We'd go all the way around back into the wilderness and across up a creek or down a canyon and back out the other side. And we ended up back at our car, which was always great, because then you didn't have to worry about having more than multiple vehicles. A couple times we went on this trip where we hiked from Sequoia National Park all the way across the Sierras, and that's called the High Sierra Trail. That's 71 miles, and that would take us all week to do that, and then we would camp and fish and hike and hang out in different spots. Sometimes we'd spend just a night there, sometimes we'd spend 2 nights if it was a place that had a lot of lakes we could go to and hike up, and then we would camp there for 2 days, and we'd go up to these other lakes, go fishing, and then come back to our camp, and then the next day we would pack up and we'd head up to the next spot. But there's one thing we found on that trip was this, we go up the Kern River, and it was a Kern River hot springs, and you could go just bathe in there and take a shower, and that was really cool. We saw it on the map, but we didn't know what it was going to be like. When we got there, it was like, wow, this is really cool. That was the first year we did that. And then my dad would, and then we went all the way across Sierras, and we went over Mount Whitney. The last day, you go over Mount Whitney and you go down the other side. And we had to have someone pick us up on that trip because it's a one-way trip. But very, very, very fun trip. I've done that. I did that trip twice. I did it with my kids when they were little. I did it with my dad. It was just the two of us, and a couple other people maybe. And then when my kids got older, we all did it together. And then after my dad passed away, like 3 of my friends and I, we went up the front of Mount Whitney and did it. So I've done Mount Whitney 3 times. And then my middle son, who's really into the outdoors, really likes to go hiking, and he actually hunts and fishes and mountain bikes, and he's actually done Whitney 4 times. He did it a couple times with his friends who wanted to do it. Then all my other kids, even my daughter, who's the youngest of my kids, has done Whitney. She did it with one of her girlfriends, just to get to the top there. Because all her brothers had done it, and her dad had done it, and her grandpa had done it. She had never done it, so she had to do it, you know. It's like a rite of passage in our family. You got to climb Mount Whitney. Which is the highest mountain in the continental United States. So, I mean, there's higher ones in like Peru, and up in Alaska, Mount McKinley is higher, but that's not in the continental United States. Mount Whitney's the highest, 14,500 and some feet. Really, it was really fun. I mean, it's neat to be on top. You just really feel like you're on top of the world. One of the times I went up there, there's a little like hut up there that I guess if it's lightning, you can go inside that hut. It's open to the people. It's like a rock hut. It's got a lightning rod on top of it, so if it gets the weather gets bad and there's lightning, you could go hide inside that hut until the lightning stops. But fortunately for us, every time we were up there, there wasn't any lightning. But my it's just neat because you're from up on top of Whitney. You can look down the Owens Valley, through the valley. You're right above Lone Pine, and you can look all the way out to Death Valley, and you can see the lowest place in the continental United States, which is some 200 feet below sea level. So it's just weird that the two of those can be seen from each other. It shows you the geography up there is extreme, highs and lows, you know. But it was neat, and there's a lot of good fishing along there, and we'd always catch fish. And my dad taught me how to cook fish over an open fire with with a grill. Never used a pan, never used any seasoning, no salt, no pepper, nothing. Just cooked the trout just after we cleaned them, head still on, put them right on the grill, and he taught me how to do that. And to this day, that's the way I like to eat trout, is over an open barbecue grill that I used local wood and get it going down to coals until when it gets to coals, then I put a grill on it and I eat it that way. I mean, I'm eating it, I'll smoke it, or sometimes I'll eat it on a barbecue or something, but really my favorite is just when I'm out there in the woods, just eating that trout directly off the open fire. So and then we did multiple trips. Sometimes we would go, like one time we went on a trip where we walked through a valley to the other side. We had to wade across the river. We went up the other side and we found a campsite way up on the other side, because my dad had noticed on the maps that there were some little tiny lakes up above there. And when we would camp there for 3 or 4 days, and we would day hike up to these little lakes and go fish up there. And that was really fun. A lot of trout up there. Never caught anything but trout. We did have encounters with bears occasionally, but the bears in the backcountry are very afraid of you. Like if you've seen my bear video with my brother, that video is it's a campground bear, and they're used to people, so they'll come around and they'll hang out there and stuff. So they'll come up to you, and you have to scare them off. When we see a bear in the backcountry, I mean, they would just take off. I mean, just run for the hills. They wanted nothing to do with people, because they're not used to people back there. It's total wilderness back there. But those trips were really fun, and especially my dad would find a way to make it in that hot springs in our trip. Well, we're going to go in, we're going to go down this way, then we're going to hike up the canyon, we're going to go there, then we're going to go out and do this over here, and we're going to do that over there, and we're going to end up, we're going to hit that hot creek so we could spend a couple days there. And one time we came in from up north and came all the way down to the hot springs and turned around and hiked all the way back up, because it's such a deep canyon. It's hard to make a loop trip out of it, because you're down in the bottom of a mile deep canyon in there. So we would come down there, go to the hot springs, and we'd turn around and go back the way we came and hit different spots and camp in different areas so that we could but it was a neat experience. It's what I call it's like a coming of age thing. When you turn 11, you become a man, and you get to do certain things that you weren't allowed to do when you were younger. And that to me was a neat experience for me and my boys, because I had a chance to really spend some time with them. And you just really, I don't know. When my daughter came around, she didn't want to go. She didn't want to go with us. So, I mean, she's the youngest, but she did go backpacking a couple times on some 3 or 4 day trips. But she had no want to go on 11-day trips. Or an 8 or 9 day trip. She said when she turned 11, said, "No, I'm not interested in that." So, I remember sometimes we would come into spots. Okay, let me explain. The John Muir Trail goes from from Yosemite all the way to the top of Mount Whitney. And now that's 16 to 20 days. We can never do that, because I mean, I committed to 1 week a year. My dad committed to 1 week a year. My kids, I take them 1 week a year. So what we would do is we would hike into an area and we walk that section of the John Muir Trail, and then we'd hike back out another way and kind of make a loop out of it. So sometimes we get 5 or 10 miles or 20 miles of the John Muir Trail, sometimes more, maybe sometimes like 40 miles of it, because it's in the middle of the Sierra. So it was neat to do that. And then, so we could say we've done the John Muir Trail, but never in one continuous time. And then my middle son, like I said, who's the most adventurous outdoor boy, him and one of his buddies. Now, and explain his buddy, dad didn't backpack, or he wasn't really an outdoorsy guy. So my son said, hey, can I take him with us? And his dad was a good friend of mine. So I'm like, I don't, let me ask your dad. I asked his dad, and he's like, yeah, if he wants to go. Well, that kid started when he was maybe 13, and he went with us every year. I mean, he was always there. He was like one of my kids. And then him and my middle son started in Sequoia, and they actually started once and couldn't make it because of the snow. The snow was too deep. Then the next year they went back and they did 16 days and climbed the whole John Muir Trail from end to end. And of course, at the end you go over Mount Whitney, which is the end of the trail. So I was pretty proud of him for doing that, to take the time off. He's still a young kid in college, and he had time to take some time off in the summer to go do that, where I'm an adult and I've got kids and a wife and responsibilities. I could never take that kind of time off. So that was a neat thing for him. I thought, I was still proud of him for that. And then every year we would just go, we'd go hiking, and we would always, after my dad passed away, it became my responsibility to find trails that I could take my kids on. And I found out how much work my dad did, because it's like you have to look at the elevation, you have to look at the distance, you have to look at a good place to camp, you know, by a creek or by a lake. You can't just camp in the middle of nowhere. You're in the wilderness, man. You need water, and you need a place to get fish, because a big part of our diet was fish. We ate fish pretty much every day, so you had to go catch fish. And I love that part of it. I mean, that was my favorite. I love to fish to this day, because it just reminds me of my dad and being a kid and going out there and doing that. So anyways, I'm going to stop the video here and just see how